Welcome. This is the 2026 plan for Project Vanguard. Coming up this year, we're excited, coming off of our first complete year in 2025. And if you haven't seen the video where I talked through all the different things that we learned, the metrics, all this stuff, make sure and go check that out. What we're going to be talking about today in this video is what do we have coming up in 2026, especially the next few months. So the big thing is that we learned a lot last year. We learned our three key messages. Veterans make up 10% of the energy workforce. We really aspire to double that in the coming years, and I'll talk more about how we plan on doing that. We really focus on an all-the-above energy strategy. The only way that we're going to beat China and establish American energy dominance is through an all-the-above. And that's really where veterans play such a key role and bring both our military experience, our industry experience, from living and working in the industry to kind of counteract a lot of misinformation and give a real feel on what's going on in the industry. And then the third thing is energy security is national security. I'm a big believer that the industry has been really well positioned to talk about the benefits of homegrown power and energy, and we just never have sold that because for a long time, there's this polarization that goes on inside of oil and gas versus clean energy. And we're just trying to make it energy, all the above, but energy security is national security. Being able to export power, being able to have that energy independence is so crucial to our energy security. And it's something that as veterans, we're probably the best folks in the industry to be able to talk about that. So those are the three things: veteran jobs, all the above, energy security. And that's what we're angling all of our talking points towards. And we're trying to really focus on that right of center stakeholder in our communities and the policymaking space and everywhere else. I'm not worried about whatever's happening on the left. We're the best position to, positively influence how the energy industry is perceived and make sure that it's moving forward and that we're making positive change and getting things done and just winning the fight. So as we go through, we're looking at a lot of these things, and that's really why we launched the Project Vanguard Fellowship. This is our inaugural Community Leader Fellowship, where we've taken 30 people across the industry and we're across the country, and we're going to be amplifying their voices this year. So we're building out a big speakers bureau where you'll be able to look at each individual person, see different earned media, blog articles, interviews on our podcast and other places. And we're going to really work on using our platform to amplify their voices for thought leadership in a variety of domains and expertise. They're amazing folks, and we'll do something else when we get this out and start really getting them introduced to the public. But we'll be recruiting this on an annual basis. So at the end of next year, we'll be looking to bring in 50 folks at that time. And just because that year ends doesn't mean we're not going to keep amplifying their voices. Now, where we're trying to focus this, we have a few priority states this year. Okay, obviously in Texas, just because that's where I am, it's also where we have the most installed capacity for a lot of energy, whether it's oil and gas, whether it's wind, battery, solar. Texas is an energy state. And so it's a great place for us to focus, but we're in an off legislative year. So there's not a lot of advocacy that we really need to do. We're going to be doing a lot to kind of build a groundswell ahead of the 2027 legislative session, but you're going to see a lot from us on legislative sessions in Louisiana, Arizona, Iowa, Oklahoma, North Carolina, and Virginia especially. We may do some more things in Illinois or Indiana, but those are really the ones that we're going to be focused on. We've already got some great stuff lined up in Arizona and Louisiana. We've got a great team of fellows in North Carolina and Virginia, and we're building out with some partners in Iowa and Oklahoma. And those are two places I could use help. So if you're a veteran in energy watching this, reach out to me. I want to talk to you. As we're going through, what we found worked last year that we're going to replicate are these state legislative days. Getting veteran messengers in front of policymakers and stakeholders was really powerful last year. So we're going to double down on that. We had a really big 30-person, 30 office meetings that we did at the state capitol here in Texas, which also included meeting Miss Texas and rattlesnake handlers on the Capitol seal inside the main building. That was interesting. I've learned every state's a little bit different. Apparently there's an alligator hunt for the governor in Louisiana. Every state's just got some really cool stuff going on. So we're going to be doing things in those states. If you're from those states, reach out. We'll get you plugged in. Really what we're trying to do is just, we're not trying to take your story and make it something else. We just want to help you craft your story, because what we find is veterans have amazing stories and they're so diverse. A lot of the things that I'll get from different people in industry is like, oh, that person was great, but where are you going to find another one? And there's thousands of veterans that are working in this industry that have amazing stories. We just need to bring them in and give them a platform, give them a soapbox, give them a bullhorn, and let them get to work. So if you're interested in any of those states, let me know. We're also still involved in supporting local energy projects. Right now, we're on the ground in Illinois and coming up in Indiana. Later in the year, we're looking at North Carolina. And that's where we do the same thing of getting folks involved and getting them out to build out the messaging that's appropriate for the industry, for an energy and infrastructure industry, and change minds on that. So if you have projects in those areas in Illinois and Indiana, please let me know. We'd love to work with you and support the great work that you're doing to bring more energy infrastructure onto the grid so that we can beat China and bring a lot of energy dominance to the American population. My personal story was I saw a lot of energy scarcity and energy insecurity when I was in Iraq, and I don't want that to happen here. And that's why I'm so passionate about doing a lot of this work. The other big thing that we did last year was the Texas tour. And that's where we went all across the state of Texas, and we were meeting energy workers, veterans, landowners, business owners, local officials, and just telling the story of energy across the table from everybody, doing site visits with local officials and business owners, and then having family events where we're just getting everybody involved and connecting everybody. And we're going to be doing that across the state this year. So we're real excited to be able to do that and potentially bring that to other states. Now, one of the things that kind of solidified for us is, how are we driving impact with this? We just were at a conference with a lot of other veteran groups at the Student Veterans of America National Convention. And it's like, well, so what do you guys do after this? That was our question to some other groups that we met. And ours is pretty easy. We're not a direct placement organization, but we are going to work with some that are like that are 501c3 nonprofits or placement groups that we want to work with, that we will announce partnerships with in the coming months. But what we want to do is we want to be that peer network. We're the network of bringing folks together. And we're able to bring them together because first we message from the veterans that are in the industry. What are their stories? What did they do in the military? Why did they feel like they wanted to get into the energy industry? How did they do it? What are they doing now? What do they like about it? We take all that through the podcast, through the YouTube channel, through testimonials that we conduct during the tour or any of our project siting support. And we build out this huge library of stories of what's happening on the ground, right? And these are just infrastructure jobs. These are just predominantly blue-collar American jobs. They're great. And so we sell that messaging to educate more people, both veterans that want to get in the industry, veterans that want to learn about other aspects of the industry that they're already in, and then even the civilians that are just stakeholders in local communities who want to hear a different angle about talking about this industry. So as we fix that messaging, it helps us build our network. And that network is where we're doing peer-to-peer. We have our private Slack community. We're running in-person events in our local chapters across the country at major industry conferences. And it's just a great way for veterans that are outside the industry to get in and learn about it, see if it's the right fit. If not, great, find the one that is. And if you're in the industry, how great is it to connect with other, guys and gals that have served our country and be able to connect and just build a really fast, valuable, meaningful, professional network. And you make a lot of great friends at the same time. As we build that network, that's what's going to help you get those jobs. I'm always trying to tell people, you got to cut through the AI slop. We don't help people get jobs. It happens a lot. What we try to do is help people get a screening call. If you know that there's a company you want to work for, you need to go find someone in our Slack group through the jobs channel, or reach out to somebody, one of the community leaders or myself, and we'll put you in touch with somebody that we probably know that works there. We know a lot of the Veteran Employee Resource Group leads at all these companies. And they're not going to be the hiring manager, but they're going to help you understand, what does this job really look like? Is this some job that's just being posted because it's, some kind of check the box thing? We already have an internal hire and you don't need to waste your time. Is this something that's going to fit what you want? What's the job really like? What's the culture of the company really like? These are things you're not always going to get in a job interview, but you can get over coffee or a call with somebody. Once you go in there, prove you're not an asshole and just get together and show them that you still can exemplify the best of what we had in the military. Then they're going to tap, that HR person on the shoulder, and your resume is going to get moved to the top. You're going to get a screening call, and then it's up to you. But that's a lot in this day and age with all the AI stuff. So we've helped a lot of people get jobs, but what we've really done is just help them network to the company and understand the culture and if they're a good fit, and then make a personal recommendation where appropriate. But that is huge for help people getting these jobs, especially if you're trying to figure out, how do I navigate in this industry? How do I get this as my last 30 days or my last 3 years in the military? What do I need to be doing and thinking about to get in? And that's different if you're an officer and you want to go get an MBA. It's different if you're doing 3 or 4 years and out and you're just looking for a way to pay and support your family and you're looking for a good trades job. The industry has tons of both of those and everything in between, but you got to know who to talk to and what you need to do. And it's best to talk to people who've already been there and done that. And that's what we bring you through our peer network. Now, after you've gotten into the workforce and we're building that up, we want to help people show up and speak up. We want to help them advocate for their job, for their industry, to just tell it like it is. Nothing special. And I'll be honest with you, energy's pretty boring. I'm an energy nerd, so I geek out on it, but most people could care less, and that's great. We just want the lights to come on. There's nothing else, sexy about it. Again, unless you're an energy nerd, and then I get real excited and read all the articles and watch the podcasts and do all of that kind of stuff. But for most people, they don't care. We just need you to tell your real story about it. And what that does is that goes back to our first step of messaging, and now you're helping us really get the message out there. And that's a virtuous cycle that's going to keep growing our community, growing our impact, growing the number of veterans that are in the industry, growing the number of veterans that are able to speak up. And that's how we get this virtuous cycle of building this community of Project Vanguard to be the most influential, positive influence on the next tranche of stakeholders in America, which are the right of center stakeholders. And that's really where we're focused on. We have some big major events this year that we're going to be supporting. There will be more partnerships coming out, but I can tell you right now, we're doing a lot with American Clean Power. We're going to have a lot with RE+, with SIA and SEPA, the Conservative Energy Network. I'm still on the advisory board for the Atlantic Council's Global Energy Center for their energy and defense practice, which is a tremendous event in DC. There's groups like Advanced Energy United, Elected Officials to Protect America, the American Legislative Exchange Council. ALEC is a great event, one of the best, densities of state elected officials. And that's really where we want to play. I'm super excited that there's national conversations around energy. I'm more interested in state level conversations. I think it's where we need to be. The energy industry needs to focus more on building out, our connectivity at the project level in the counties and really working there to build up our influence around the messaging and the perception of these projects in the industry at the state level, and the federal will kind of take care of itself. We'll probably support a fly-in or two for our members that are interested. I don't know if I'm going to go to that, but I'm real excited to work with a lot of the state folks that we've been meeting for the last year. And when I attended ALEC, it was just a great time of meeting a lot of other conservative free market thinkers that are doing this work across military and veteran affairs and the energy landscape. So that's really where we're trying to focus. Veterans have a great opportunity with the way that we're represented, and we have some goals on how big we want to grow. We basically want to double in size this year. We had a big kickoff last year. We ended up reaching 1,000 members. That's the wider end of the funnel. We want to double our follower count, so we're going to be putting out a lot more content, really focusing on how do we distribute that content, how do we get it out there before we start creating new content streams of different things. We want to make sure that when we're promoting our community leaders, people are seeing it and that they're able to receive, the great message and thought leadership that they have and provide. So We're going to be really working on our distribution and our partnerships for the first quarter, getting after some of these legislative days and talking to policymakers and stakeholders. And by the time we get to the second quarter, we're going to be really kicking into the Texas tour. Hopefully we'll be starting a tour in Iowa. It gets a little bit warmer. And then, when we get to the summer, things a lot of times slow down, but we want to be really doing a lot of stakeholder education, roundtables, just really getting in there and talking to folks when we don't want or need anything. There's no legislation on the table. We're just there to build friendships, create relationships, establish rapport and trust, and just get to know, where are the gaps? What do people want to know? What do they don't know? What are things that maybe they don't have right because they just haven't heard it before? And then as we get into the fourth quarter, we're going to start gearing up for more things like the Texas legislative session, a lot of other things. And we'll start training more of our volunteers and kind of closing out the tours, which will be ongoing monthly once we kick them off in the spring. And it's going to be a busy year. So if you're interested in participating, sign up, become a member, volunteer. Go to the events tab on our website. It'll have everything on Eventbrite, where we have started already planning out the veteran happy hours at conferences and major events that we're going to be participating in. You can go to our podcast, catch up on some of the folks that are there. You can go into our speakers bureau and learn about the community leaders and request them to come out, have them speak at an event, be on a panel. We'll have a lot of the content that they've already published and been recorded. And so we're just really trying to emphasize that this is a platform for the veterans and energy community. And that's what we want to do. We want to amplify these voices. Hopefully I get to fade into the background because we'll have so many great voices. You don't ever have to hear from me again. But it's so exciting to be able to do this, to have the support of the industry behind us, to have the community support, the veterans that are in the industry. It's just my favorite people to hang out with. And I can't say enough about the great things that we're going to do together in 2026. And I hope that you can join us. Thanks.